Welcome back to Cal Park Rose. Jason and I are fresh off the segment and discussing the conflict at 30,000 feet with Mike Tyson and Melvin. Mike versus Melvin. That does have an interesting sound to it. Second segment, we're going to be talking about Netflix and how there are potentially some changes ahead for the platform. I know there's been a lot of discussion about potential crackdown of sharing of passwords. Uh, I know personally, um, you know, I'm sharing my password at a few with a few family members, and there might be some changes to that depending on how Netflix actually addresses this in the coming months. And there was an article from CNBC how from Alex Sherman that was talking about how password sharing has been effectively something like kind of like speeding. It's like, hey, use, don't abuse, don't go too crazy with it. And I feel like anytime someone says, hey, there might be some boundaries about how you can use a platform, there's always going to be people just reflexively saying, oh, I don't like this and I'm going to leave. And I'm like, chances are you probably won't, but we'll see. And one of the big things that was going to come out of that is basically when people talk about a crackdown, it's not really a crackdown. They'll probably say, hey, you can have X amount of sub accounts, for example, to add to your account. So I know, for example, Netflix had a statement basically saying, oh, you can have X amount of screens. And they effectively know, oh, here's how many boxes effectively that you have that password and that username effectively tied to at any given time, right? And so that's effectively what they're going to do. That there'd be almost an a la carte fee, an add-on. It's like adding bacon to a burger at this point, Jason. So, and in this article, Netflix stated that over 100 million households are using a shared password, especially including 30 million in the United States and Canada. So it just seems like this is just the nature of the beast to me. And I don't feel like the average person is going to balk at this. If you like the service, you'll keep using it. I don't feel like if it's $1 or $2 a month additional, you're not gonna make a business decision and say, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna quit." So, just some of my initial thoughts looking at how this potentially might get rolled out. Jason, what are some of yours?
So, I think you're definitely missing the factor here that people definitely will quit Netflix. Not everybody, of course. I do agree with you. Some people are going to make a big deal, but some people will just quit because another thing the article mentions is that Netflix has so much more competition now when it comes to streaming services. That's stream movies, TV shows, whatever it may be. I mean, you got your Disney Pluses, you got your Warner Brothers, you got your Discovery Plus, Paramount, NBC Universal, Amazon Prime, for that matter. Not to mention, Hulu. Not to mention all other network channels have their own service, CW, ABC, whatever it may be. So if somebody says, you know what, I can't share this stuff anymore. I'm not paying this extra $2-3 or whatever it's going to be, 4 or 5. Peace out, Netflix. We're done. But another thing to point out too is apparently, supposedly, Netflix reported losing 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter. And the next estimation, I'm not sure where they're getting this, they expect to lose another 2 million over the course of the year. I believe actually in the next quarter. So I think Netflix is trying to hang on to some money, as much money as they can. And this is why they're starting to look into making people who are getting their households, passwords shared or sharing the passwords pay extra. Because think about it. They've been around for I think 97 or whatever it was, and they've never cared about password sharing before. But now they are. When you start losing money, you're trying to find ways to not lose money or make that money back. And the password sharing thing, that's Netflix's solution, I'm sure partially at least, to do that. I saw something, I believe it wasn't in CNBC, might have been CNN, to where they're also going to look into having like a tiered membership system where like the lower tier, you have to have ads and stuff like that in your movies and stuff like that. Obviously, something they haven't done already. So this password thing to me is them trying to recoup money and not lose money. Which, as we always say on this show, I'm not gonna, everything's all about the money. I'm not gonna fault any business or company and try to recoup that. Is what it is. Just like you said, you yourself are sharing your password with some relatives. Same here. I'm sharing my password with two other households as well. Because why not? Why the hell not, right? Um, Now, what will I do once they initiate all this? You know, paying extra for password sharing. We'll see. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm gonna outward just quit Netflix, but I will tell you all that competition that I mentioned earlier, a minute ago. I pretty much have most of those on my TV. So it's not like I don't have options to watch streaming anything. So if I decided to give up Netflix, I wouldn't be short of TV watching entertainment from multiple streaming services. As I mentioned in the Q&A last week, Disney Plus is my favorite. I didn't say Netflix, so is what it is, man. But those are my initial thoughts about this.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out. To me, it's not that big a deal because every time Netflix indicates, "Oh, we're going to have a price hike." Number 1, they rarely do that saying, "Oh, it's going to be immediately." They typically stagger and say, "Okay, it's going up for certain people at a certain price. This is going to be the price for new people." And so I feel like they've definitely managed expectations. I remember, I mean, the going rate for Netflix now is what, like $17, $18, right? And so I remember when it was like 10. And so it's been incremental the last decade anyway. And every time there's a, I feel like that look screams, I'm going to Google this and see what the actual price is.
Yeah,
um,
bro, that price is a little high, bro. If you're paying $18 a month for Netflix, I'd say cancel that right now, bro.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay. What is it? What are you paying it then?
It ain't no $18. I guarantee that. If it went up to $18, I would have canceled that a long time ago. Now
Okay.
I'm not a cheapskate or nothing like that, but I'm like, nah, bro. I mean, that's the whole reason I got rid of Hulu Live TV because every so often the price kept creeping up. I remember when I first got Hulu Live TV, it was only like 42, $45 a month. When I dropped it over the course of a few months, it already gone up to like 60. I'm like, that's not why I signed up for you guys originally. So I dropped them. So I'm not, I'm not afraid to drop something just because the price was up a little bit. Partially because again, competition. There were other options for live TV, and that's why I dropped Hulu Live TV because there are other options. So no, I don't need Netflix to keep going. There's certain shows on there that I'll probably miss out on, but guess what? Watch this, Terrence. Watch this. Watch this. So
Foo-
what?
Fooey. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah. Fancy a guy who's made a lifestyle over not caring. No, we're talking. No, we're not. No one's losing out on their. We're not talking heart surgery here, but we are talking in entertainment, and we are talking about the cost of goods and services. And Netflix, to your point, has a lot of competition. That space has expanded immensely in the last 10 years anyway. I mean, Disney Plus wasn't even like Disney Plus 3 years ago. So, um, but at the same time, they listen, you can say that there are other streaming services that you prefer. Um, I feel like Netflix is honestly probably still doing this better than anybody else. And
Based on what?
because they've been doing it the longest, they've worked to. I never in a million years thought we would have fucking blockbusters with Jamie Foxx, Michael B. Jordan, where you have Netflix exclusives, um, blockbusters, where you'd have effectively Netflix kind of changed the game, where you had for the first time instead of like network TV or a big studio, for example, a traditional studio. Speaking of things like Paramount, where you would have a streaming studio effectively be nominated for Best Picture. So I do feel like they are the best at this. Like, Don't Look Up, that was a Netflix exclusive.
You seem like you're speaking a lot to what they're doing in the past, as opposed to what's going on right
Don't
now.
Look Up came out this year, dog. What are you talking about?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Don't Look Up came out this year. What are you talking about? So you
And I
can't.
have no idea what that is, sir.
But yeah, that doesn't change the fact that it happened just because you're not aware of it.
I didn't say it didn't happen. What I'm telling you is you're speaking a lot on what they've done in the past. Besides, now obviously they're still doing things currently, but if they're doing the things the best, why are they talking about losing customers and losing money per quarter, per year, whatever it may be?
I mean, I think that's just a natural progression where you're
For
going
the
to
first
lose
time in 10 years. In 10 years.
Okay.
So there's a reason why it's the first time in 10 years. Now, I'm not saying they're not a good service, but what I'm saying is you're speaking to a lot of stuff in the past, which is nothing wrong with that. But as of right now, first time in 10 years, they're losing customers. According to them. It's not everyone else saying it. They're saying it. So maybe they might have been the best maybe a year ago, but are they the best right now? And you can't sit here and tell me that they can make that claim when you're talking about we just lost 200,000 people in the last 3 months, and we're expecting to lose 2 million more this year.
Okay, so here's I'm going to put it to you. So let's compare the subscriber base to, let's say, a Netflix to Disney Plus, for example. Like, is it anywhere near as big?
See, that's also not a fair comparison. See, because
you did not. Oh, so now I'm comparing apples and aircraft carriers. Okay.
See, you just want to get that saying in there, but you're not slick. I wasn't even making that correlation whatsoever. Okay, put it this
Why is
way.
it not fair?
No. Hang on. So another question that was last week. You've heard of the WWE, correct?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay. So I presume you have. So, but have you also heard of AEW? Have you? Yes or no?
Dude, I've heard of every fucking wrestling federation on the man, ECW, you name it. What's your point?
The point is more people watch WWE. One, they've been around longer, so yeah, they're going to have a longer base. They've been doing it for 40 plus years, and then 20-year advantage over AEW. They're seen on multiple channels as of right now. So just because WWE is bigger doesn't mean AEW isn't better. Talk to a lot of fans, and they would agree that the product right now for AEW is a lot better. So to bring that correlation just to say that just because something is bigger doesn't mean they're better. Like as you mentioned, Netflix has been around the longest. So it stands to reason, yes, they're going to have that advantage, but that don't mean they're better. Yes, Disney Plus is newer, but also keep in mind Disney Plus also stole a lot of the content that Netflix was carrying too when it comes to all the Disney stuff.
How can you say they stole it when it was their actual IPs?
Okay, fair enough.
Fair
enough.
I don't even know if that's considered theft. I'm just curious.
Fair enough. Call it what you want. That ain't that fine. But that's one whole point, though. That yeah, Netflix has that huge advantage, but it seems like potentially, depending on how things go with the losses that they're reporting, if it continues, then maybe that's a sign of people aren't thinking they're the best anymore. Now, some of that may be pricing. Who knows? As of right now, Disney Plus is still only $6-7. I mean, it's gone up, but so what? If it's still half the price of Netflix, you know. And also, we'll see how long that stays as it is. But I'd imagine if it stays under $10, people aren't going to bat an eye when it comes to keeping that Disney Plus subscription as opposed to Netflix. Now, I do want to say, obviously, that I can't speak to all the platforms I don't know, but there are many platforms, streaming platforms, that also care about sharing passwords. That they don't allow it. I mentioned I had Hulu Live TV before. They were quick to point out to me when I was traveling and I was using somebody's TV and had my password and account set up on that TV. They say, "Hey, no, we got you signed up here in Indianapolis. You can't be having it in two places. Fix that right now." So obviously, other streaming services care about their passwords not being shared, so Netflix wouldn't be original to that. But it's one of those things of you've never allowed it before. Now you're trying to stop me from doing this. I'm comfortable with not sharing my password. You're not going to stop me from doing this. I'm going to say goodbye to Netflix. Now, another quick correlation here, real quick. I'm going to toss it back to you. I used to work at a rec center down in St. Louis. When I first started there, the desk staff would never check in any members. They would never make anybody scan in their car. They would just let them go by and scan them in manually. Well, due to security reasons, we had to stop doing that all of a sudden. We had to actually make everybody scan. The simplest thing, make everybody scan, not a big deal. You cannot imagine how many people flipped out on the desk staff because why you make me check in? I've been using this gym for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And some people left the member gym over that. Something so simple, so stupid. But because you've been allowing people to do something, they got that air of confidence, whatever you want to call it, to say, I can come to this place, not check in, not do this. But as soon as you check them, that's when I'm going to get all mad and want to quit. So it's maybe that same correlation. People, I know it sounds silly, but people have done it. Trust me.
I'm not saying people haven't done it. I'm saying, if people, want to use a service, and listen, I understand there's more options in this space. And listen, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't give a shit. I'm still gonna watch stuff on Netflix. I'm still gonna watch stuff on Disney Plus. Hell, I might even get the Apple joint just to compare because I like what I hear about Ted Lasso. So
I'm gonna ask you about that. By the way, I have a question about that off air, but I agree with you. I mean, people are, like you are going to still watch Netflix. I'll be very curious to see how the numbers bear out the rest of the year, or whenever they decide to do the whole password sharing thing. I know an article from NPR said they're going to test out in other countries about the whole, like you said, having people add on certain other households for a certain small fee. They're testing it out in like Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru for seemingly a small amount of dollars. So we'll see if they do that. They said they're probably not going to do that for a while. Not sure how long the testing is going to be. But like you said earlier, they may test it out, probably like it, and then implement it globally, especially in the US and Canada. And I'll be interested to see whenever they do implement that, how many people they lose after that, which may or may not matter depending on how many they lose before. So if you already lose 4 million people before, what's another million after? So, I mean, I say that, but if you're a millionaire, you don't want to lose 1 million customers. So
here's the thing. I'm willing to guarantee one thing we haven't heard. Everything's got a pricing tier, right? Nearly every good and service you can think of, good, better, best. I'm dying to know the 200,000 that you're projected to lose.
No, they already lost that. The 200,000, they already lost that. That was the first quarter.
Okay. And so the projected amount for the year, 2 million. Okay. So what happens if they just happen to be 2 million of their least profitable customers? I don't think we looked at it like that. All money ain't good money.
Well, wait. With Netflix, how is my not a profitable customer? They're all paying the same rate. So what do you? So
Not necessarily, like I said, there are pricing tiers. Not everyone is necessarily.
There's not a pricing tier now. If I'm not mistaken, everybody's paying as of right. I mean, obviously, different countries can be variants, but I know I shouldn't be saying variants in this time of year, but I think everybody pays the same price. I don't think Netflix has a tiered paying system yet. Now, if they do, somebody correct me, please do.
It's based off the number of screens you can watch at the same time, champ. Basic, premium.
Okay, I didn't know that. Because I never did, because it didn't affect me. So, but either way, do you think Netflix wants to lose 2 million customers regardless of what they're paying? And I know you, and I know you know the answer is no.
No, your answer is no. What I'm going to tell you is, until 2 seconds ago, you had never even considered that. Hey, what if sometimes a business will say, you know what, these customers and the return on investment for those said customers isn't worth the juice is not worth the squeeze. I am not running Netflix, but I'm willing to bet instead of all the doom and gloom about we're losing X amount of customers, there might be an additional layer that says I'm willing to let those ones fall to the wayside because they're not even bringing the best return on investment.
That would make sense if they had a better alternative to replace that money they'd be losing by getting rid of those customers. Not getting rid of, but letting them fall to the wayside. I'm not disagreeing with your sentiment, but usually that's a premise based off of, well, we're willing to cut the fat here because we're going to get more fat from these people we're keeping based off of this additional thing we're adding on. What's that going to be? I'm not sure what it could be. I mean, you're a streaming service. It's not like you're something else that can actually add value. You know what I mean? No offense to Netflix or any other streaming service, but what are you going to offer that's going to say, oh, Netflix is so much better now than it used to be because of X? What's that X going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not willing to just turn it into a commodity. Like you can only do this. What else are you doing for me? But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. I would love to follow up on this, let's say towards the end of the year, where we see where these subscriber numbers look out. And then also it's a fun thing to look into down the road as, more shows, come out towards the end of the year. I feel like every time a company says, oh, we're going to lose this many, I'm like, well, for some people, the only way to go is down. Same for some companies as well. So, all right. That concludes our second segment on the Netflix debate over shared passwords. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about, frankly, a serious subject, the Johnny Depp defamation case. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.